Joe Biden finalized a national drinking water standard to protect people from so-called forever chemicals in drinking water.
Communities could get federal funding if they don't meet that new standard. And right now, Sioux City isn't meeting it. KTIV's Clayton Anderson tells us why Sioux City water needs attention and what the city is doing to address the issues that have been identified.
In November of 2022, the EPA issued a health advisory for Sioux City's drinking water because the agency said the level of per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFAS, exceeded the EPA's new acceptable threshold. At the Southbridge Regional Water Plant, they're seeing those numbers be slightly higher than EPA guidelines. And while it is the same water that has always existed in Sioux City, the EPA guidelines have changed.
At this time, we're monitoring it quarterly. I want to stress it's the same water that's always been going through. The only difference is the EPA has changed their guidelines on it.
The maximum acceptable level of PFAS as set by the EPA is 4.0 parts per trillion. 2023 Sioux City Water Quality Report data showed that the Southbridge plant had 4.6 parts per trillion of PFAS. This is calculated by the plant as they take routine samples of the water for the Iowa Department of Natural Resources and the EPA.
We monitor everything that comes in. We test it as it goes through the plant. We make adjustments based on any kind of parameters going through the plant, and then we monitor when it leaves.
Right now, there is nothing the current plant can do to address these forever chemicals. But two options the city has is to overhaul the treatment process or look to re-drill wells. That's something that could potentially be more cost effective. The city can look to apply for state and federal funding. The Biden administration says the EPA will have $12 billion in the infrastructure law for general drinking water improvements, which could include addressing PFAS. Previously, the city traced the PFAS at the Southbridge plant to fire-resistant foam used by the 185th Air Refueling Wing. In Sioux City, Clayton Anderson, KTIV News 4.
On Tuesday, Western Iowa Congressman Randy Feenstra was at the ribbon cutting to celebrate Sheldon's connection to the Lewis and Clark Regional Water System. Feenstra said it's important to address contaminants like PFAS and its impact on health, but he says the cost for the project has to make sense.
Because you can have all the rules and regulations you want, but you won't be able to ever afford the water that you're trying to drink. So that's the issue right now, is the balance of balancing safety versus balancing the cost.
The manager of Sioux City's water plant said this year's report showed some other contaminants which come from sand and gravel. And he says the levels of those contaminants are generally the same as years past.